I want to tell you about the worst movie ever made. The worst movie ever made was called Working Girl. It starred Melanie Griffith and Sigourney Weaver. In the movie, Melanie Griffith was an ambitious young secretary who had just gotten a job in a giant gleaming office building in Manhattan's Upper East Side. Her new boss was what looked in the movie like the only woman executive in the entire company. Clearly, Melanie Griffith, as our hero, was there to bring her down. So throughout the movie, we are meant to root for Melanie Griffith to unseat this woman executive who's too brass, too forward, too confident, compared to Melanie Griffith's shy, blushing, and self-effacing demeanor. And in the end, Melanie Griffith not just gets Sigourney Weaver's job, she also gets her boyfriend. Worst movie ever. Now, I was a film story editor and a movie executive soon after that movie came out. And if I was going to rewrite it, I would rewrite it like this. Melanie Griffith gets the job. After about a week, Sigourney Weaver realizes that this young woman's got some talent. So she calls her into her office and she says, "Hey, Melanie, seems like you're ambitious. You want to be in my job, right?" Melanie Griffith says, "Yeah, I've always dreamed of being an executive in a big gleaming white office building on the Upper East Side." "Okay," Sigourney Weaver says, "you know Paul down the hall? He's been phoning it in for years. You and I are going to strategize on how to get you into his corner office, and we're going to work together on that." That would have been the movie that we should have all seen to show us how to work together as women. But it didn't happen. So I was starting my career in the 1980s and worked up in the film industry until the early 2000s. Throughout my career, I was meant to feel as though there could only ever be one woman at the top of any executive suite. I was the only story editor, the only development executive at my company who was a woman, surrounded by a bunch of other male executives and even male assistants. In fact, women were called secretaries, men were called assistants generally. The boys, the young men coming into my company, were put into assistance positions, where they were expected to stay there for about a year as they worked their way up to becoming themselves management. Whereas women were often put into dead-end assistant jobs with very little chance or no chance of upward mobility. Now, I remember when my boss, who was a really great guy, was holding a birthday party for himself and invited a whole bunch of assistants and other executives to go to this party. And I realized that this party was happening and I hadn't been invited. And I was surprised because I was actually the second in command in this particular division. And I had a great relationship with this top male executive. So I pulled him aside and I said, "Hey, how come I wasn't invited to your birthday party? I kind of thought we were friends, figured I'd be able to go." And what he told me after having a troubled look on his face was that the guys had decided to go to a strip club and they talked about it and they didn't feel that I would feel comfortable there. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and I won't even begin. But I think all of you can see what this means for women who are trying to do the kind of networking that results in what happened to these guys, which was later most of them became top executives, top agents, super successful people in the film industry because they had this chance to network with each other out of work time and time again. Well, it's time for us to stop asking for permission. Definitely educating our male colleagues, especially the ones who are educatable and will be good allies, but also spend more time doing what Sigourney Weaver should have done in Working Girl and working with the women around us, especially the young women and the women of color who have a much tougher path in most industries, in mentoring, in helping form networking alliances, in supporting each other in every single way, and to stop seeing each other as competition, which is certainly how we are held back. Now, I ran for the Glendale City Council in 2009, and it was a group of women community leaders who were the ones who walked doors for me, who licked envelopes, who spent months trying to convince me to run. Not because I was anything so special, but because there hadn't been a woman on the Glendale City Council in 10 years, and there had only been a small handful of women since the city was incorporated in 1916. Whereas we had had hundreds and hundreds of men serving on the council. They saw a lack of women representation. They wanted to do something about it, and they were willing to put in the sweat equity to make sure that that happened. When I ran for assembly in 2016, once again, it was women who formed the bulk of my support base, who were out raising money, who were doing the legwork for me, who believed in me, and who continue to be my biggest supporters today. I couldn't have done it without that incredibly supportive group of women who wanted to see their daughters and their granddaughters have women role models to look up to, who wanted women's voices in government. And I want to thank all of you, because I know that you are involved as activists. You are feminists. You are feminist activists because you want the exact same thing. And it takes women and people and allies like you to create an equitable and a just society that truly has opportunities for everyone, and where everybody's voices and everybody's perspectives are included and recommended. And that makes us a much stronger society and a much stronger, our legislature is stronger through diversity. Every level of government is stronger because of diversity. Study after study has shown that even the corporate boardroom and the companies that they control do better when they have diversity on their boards and in their executive ranks. So thank you for everything that you do. It's really been a pleasure to be able to join you here today, and fight on.